Just speaking with you before we began our taping here, I sense that all of you are you're no way, shape, or form morose individuals. You strike me as very upbeat people, and yet you're dealing on a daily basis with people who are
do this work.
Well, who are sometimes a severe state of stress. So, what's your secret, Rabbi Griffel?
The secret is that I think probably most people who go into chaplaincy are holy moment junkies. And we love the opportunity, and we value and feel so privileged to have the opportunity to be with people in these intimate moments of their lives. To be let into their lives is such a privilege, and to get to hear their stories is such a privilege that this work is so rewarding. And the number of stories that I think all of us get to hear in the course of an average day or an average week, both certainly of the troubles that people have been through, but also the triumphs that people have been through. I had a patient who was on the kinder transport from Germany to England just before the Shoah started, had people who were in the American Army during the war and helped to save other Jews. Just, there are so many stories that we get to hear. We get to be witnesses, as Rabbi Ozarowski was talking about, often to these amazing transformations, or even not so dramatic transformations, but kind of quiet, gradual transformations that really help people.
That's
for
what,
me,
yeah.
Excuse me. For me, the moment is so holy, and it's so beautiful to be allowed in. That it's really a very powerful thing. But what comes with that, and I think where the power for me lies, is in the nature of improvisation. We're there in the moment. We have no idea what somebody is going to say to us.
Sure.
And all we have is our faith that we carry with us, our knowledge certainly, but most of all, our ability to respond in that very present moment. And I find that extremely beautiful, and that saves me from any morose feelings.
Rabbi Ozarowski?
And I would add to all that the idea that to be invited into someone else's life is sacred. And in fact, the relationship that we have with the people with whom we work is really an inversion of the classical rabbinic relationship, the famous rabbi-student relationship. We turn it on its head. They're teaching us about life. We're the students. So we have to be lifelong learners of people, as Rabbi Schorin pointed out, in order to do this work effectively.
What about the understanding of the high holidays that you all have at this point? How has it evolved or shifted, having done the work that you've done? And I guess one question is, has it evolved and shifted, and in what ways?
Well, I would say that, going back to Unetana Tokef, which is certainly, I think, uppermost in a lot of our minds when we're working with our patients.
Which is the who shall live and who shall die.
Right. As we're working with our patients and families, that after that paragraph, who shall live and who shall die, who in old age and who prematurely and so forth, after that paragraph, it says, Tshuva, Tfilah, Utzdaka, Avirin, Roa HaGazera, which means that Tshuva, this process of returning that some people call repentance, and prayer, and doing just and charitable action, removes the evil of the decree. It doesn't necessarily change the decree, but it can change how we perceive it. And that becomes so apparent through the course of our work that, as you were talking about before, attitude is really everything. And by listening, by really being with people in those moments, they can come to a place where the evil of the decree is mitigated.
Rabbi Schorin, how's it shifted for you?
A little bit differently, because what's preeminent for me at this point is hearing the blowing of the shofar. And there's a wonderful text from Maimonides where he says, "Awake, you slumberers, from your sleep." And I find that so very powerful because many of our residents at the Lieberman Center are women. And being around the age of 90, they were not educated in the various themes of the high holidays, in the various rudiments of Judaism. And yet they have that wonderful feeling in their soul. So what I hope the shofar does is awaken them to the idea of love, of presence, of living as fully as they can for the time they have.
Rabbi Ozarowski, any shift for you?
It's been a gradual development. In fact, it's reflected in the word ma'avirin, which is takes away, which is in the present tense, actually. It's a process. It's not all of a sudden. It moves gradually. What's, I guess, developed for me over the years was looking at the attributes of God that rabbinic literature describes: the midat hadin, which is God's attribute of justice, and midat harachamim, God's attribute of mercy. Din, as I understand it now in my pastoral work, is that there are certain things in life that happen. People get sick and people die. It's rule number one. And rule number two is that you can't change rule number one. But part of my work, and for myself as well, is to help people who are suffering, people who are dealing with illness, people who are dealing with addictions, which is also part of the healing network. We try to help them access God's midat harachamim, God's compassionate aspect, which is a really major Yom Kippur theme.
You know, listening to the three of you discuss this would make me hope fervently that your experience and your messages could get to the repertoire of congregational rabbis, because to hear these messages before one is in need of chaplaincy services, I think would be extraordinarily powerful. And I want to thank all of you rabbis so much for being with us today. And I wish that you have a marvelous New Year. L'Shana Tova to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Don't forget, you can get daily updates on the Jewish community and Israel at the Jewish United Fund website, www.juf.org. As always, we welcome your input and encourage you to write us with your questions and comments. The address is the Jewish United Fund, 30 South Wells Street, room 5056, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Thanks for joining us today. Jewish viewers, L'Shana Tova U'Tikatevu, for a good and healthy New Year. We'll see you in November. Shalom.